I'm McKinney Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real-life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. A quick word before we begin. Happiness starts with gratitude. One of my books, The Gratitude Journal, is your daily tool to shift your mindset and attract more positivity into your life. So ready to start your gratitude practice? You can grab your journal today on Amazon or at mckinnysmith.com. Today's guest is Sheena Yap Chan. She is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, keynote speaker, strategist, and award-winning podcaster dedicated to empowering women through leadership and self-confidence. She's the founder and host of the highly acclaimed podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence, where she shares the inspiring journeys of women who have embraced their power. With over 1 million downloads and ranking in the top 0.5% of global podcasts, her show has featured more than 800 interviews, including conversations with celebrities and 8-figure CEOs. Beyond podcasting, Sheena is making a profound impact through her writing and speaking engagements. Her debut book, The Tao of Self-Confidence, A Guide to Moving Beyond Trauma and Awakening the Leader Within, published by Wiley, is a Wall Street Journal and Publishers Weekly bestseller. Recognized by Book Authority as one of the top 20 best self-confidence books of all time, it continues to inspire readers worldwide. Sheena's expertise has been featured on major platforms such as Mindvalley, Fox, NBC News, and the Manila Times. Through her training and programs, she's committed to closing the gender confidence gap and helping women step into leadership roles across industries. She has shared her insights on self-confidence and leadership with organizations like Live Nation, NASA, UKG, leaving a lasting impact on audiences around the world. So please welcome to the show, Sheena.
Hey, McKinney. Thank you so much for having me on the show today. It's really an honor to be here to just chat with you. So I'm just excited for our conversation.
I'm excited for our conversation as well. I always get excited when, I'm following people on social that inspire me, but when I get to have these conversations and I get to know you on a deeper level and get to know the person behind the feed. So thank you again for saying yes.
Well, thank you.
All right, so let's jump right in. I love to start with getting to know who you were as a child, because I feel like, before society or culture starts to shape our belief systems, our paradigms, I love to kind of understand who you were, what you wanted to be back then. So take us back to your early years. What was your upbringing like, and how did it shape your self-confidence?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I was born in the Philippines. I moved to Canada when I was 7. And even though I live in one of the most multicultural cities in the world, Toronto, there was no one in the media that looked like me. So I always felt ashamed of who I was, my culture, my background. I wanted to have blonde hair and blue eyes to feel more beautiful, to feel more accepted. I wanted to hide my culture. In fact, I was really embarrassed by it. So confidence wise, it was like very low. So And there was even a point where I did dye my hair blonde and actually decided to dye it back to my original hair color because $80 to retouch your roots is just crazy. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I said, I'm dyeing it back to my original hair color. But in that moment when the hairdresser just showed me what my hair looked like after I'm dyeing it back to my original hair color, that's where I really felt myself. I said, this is me. This is my culture. This is what I look like. I won't have blonde hair. I won't have blue eyes. And I finally accepted who I was. And all the work that I do right now really stems from my upbringing, really creating better representation, especially for Asian women and beyond, because, there's still a lot of negative stereotypes that we have to deal with, which is unfortunate. And I know it's not just Asian women, it's all women, especially women of color. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to dismantle that because there's so many amazing women out there who can do amazing things. But really, what holds them back is how they perceive themselves. And I'm guilty of it too. I've been there. I know what it's like to feel you're not good enough, to feel like you're a fraud, to feel like there's someone better out there, or you're too old to start something new. I've been through all those like thoughts in my head that like stops me from moving forward. And so I just want women to see their potential, especially in this day and age where the world's a little bit chaotic. And, they mentioned that the World Economic Forum mentioned that gender parity would be achieved at the earliest, the year 2158. So
Wow.
that's like 5 generations before we could see that. And at the rate that we're going, it's going to take longer. And so for me, it's important for women to show up, to be leaders in every industry, to see their potential, because it's not only helping women, it's a win-win situation for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a little bit
Yeah.
about me.
I love the work that you're doing. And, I can understand how do I say this? So, when you're talking about the work that you're doing, not just for Asian women and for all women in general, like as a woman of color, I already know, we experience a lot of different things. Sometimes being the only woman of color in the room, sometimes being the only woman of, person of color in the room, all those things. My fiance is half Filipino. So, we've known each other since we were 15, but like, us being together now and understanding a lot of the similarities within our culture and the things that we have to overcome, in our society today. Like, what are some of, I guess, the cultural expectations that were placed on you growing up, and how did they influence your self perception?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being an Asian woman isn't easy. Like we've been taught to do as you're told, go to school, get a job, get married, never rock the boat, stay in the background, and that's it, right? We're not allowed to brag about our achievements. We're not allowed to share what we're going through. I mean, mental health was a taboo topic, like in every other culture. And so we've just been programmed to just stay in the background and serve everybody else. And we really forget to serve the most important person, which is ourselves. So I always felt like I needed approval from everybody. I was people pleasing. Like I couldn't make my own decisions. I felt like I needed somebody else's decision to be made. I resisted a lot. I feared a lot of things. The imposter syndrome, also gets to me. And even just the trauma that I've been through growing up, right? Not only our own traumas, but like our parents and grandparents, like they've been through a lot and that trauma gets passed on to us as well.
Mm-hmm.
So all that really did shape how I viewed myself. I didn't think I was good enough. I was playing small. My confidence was low. My self-esteem was low. I just didn't think the highest of me. I was my own worst enemy instead of being my own best friend. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know a lot of women who've been through that, right? Being able to
Mm-hmm.
interview over
Right.
800 women on the podcast, mostly Asian women, I realized I wasn't the only one going through this, but the problem is nobody talks about it. And so that is why I even started my podcast, because I wanted a support system because I couldn't find it myself, and
Mm-hmm.
also create better representation. Like
Mm-hmm.
society still views Asian women as quiet, submissive, and obedient. And it's not the case. It's totally not the case. I'm sure being with your fiance, you've seen a lot of Filipina titas who are like,
I see.
um, yes, yes, and in a
Yes.
good way. And so
Yes.
that's why for me, creating better representation, stronger representation is so important. So we can dismantle all these labels, these stereotypes, and really help women be seen in a brighter light. Is it easy? Definitely not. You have to go through a lot of hurdles, right? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But I understand this work is so important because of what's going on in the world. Like you look at a country like Afghanistan where women's basic human rights are stripped away from them. It's terrible, right?
Mhm.
To know they're not allowed to show their faces in public, they're not allowed to talk, they're not even allowed to sing in their own homes. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Mhm.
these are things we take for granted because we live in North America. But in
Mhm.
other countries, that is sacred to them because they're not allowed to do that. And so the fact that it's 2025 and this is still happening is really scary because if one country can do it, imagine how many more countries can do it, right?
Mhm.
So this is why this work is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's becoming more and more increasingly important for those of us that are showing and being the representation that is out here because like you said, representation does matter. And I think sometimes we don't realize the depth and how much it matters. Whether it be being an Asian woman, whether it be being a woman, it's just there are so many environments that are either male dominated or white dominated or all of these other things, and when there's no representation it affects the entire dynamic of everything. I guess what for you, what was, or was there defining moment in your life that made you realize you needed to work on your own confidence?
For me, I think that moment was really when my aunt passed away. I realized she passed away from a horrific accident about 13 years ago, and it made me realize how like the time we have left in this life, in this
Mhm.
lifetime or in this planet, we don't know what's going to happen. Like the next day I could be gone. I don't know. Right. So I wanted to, if I were to go away by tomorrow, I wanted to make sure that I live with no regrets. And
Mhm.
so I can honestly say that right now that if I was gone by tomorrow, I've done everything I've ever wanted and more. And so I guess that was the catalyst of my journey to just go out there and forge my own path, live life on my terms. And that wasn't easy, especially when you come from an Asian background, like your parents are like, "What are you doing with your life? You're already successful. Why would you throw it away?" And yes, you know, for some people that might be success in their terms. So for me, that wasn't, success, right?
Mhm.
I wanted to do more. I knew I was meant for more things, and I don't want people telling me I have a cap. Especially as women, we're always told there's a certain cap we can only reach when really there's no cap. The sky's the
Mhm.
limit. And so that was the catalyst. It didn't happen overnight, but it helped me start thinking like, what can I do? What should I do? How am I going to do this? And really just like figure out what do I want to do next?
Mhm. I mean, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss, and I know from experience when you lose a loved one, it forces you to look at life differently, right? When my sister passed away, for me, it was like, what do I want my legacy to be? How do I wanna be remembered? Now it's time for me to live intentionally. I can see how, I guess, our traumas, it forces us to want to be purposeful with our lives. I guess what would you say, how did those experiences impact your sense of self and your journey towards your healing?
I think for me, it was just learning to love myself. Like I know everyone says self love is important, and it is. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it is. But I think people get this wrong idea of what self love is because it's not just the good, it's the good, bad, and the ugly. So really accepting myself for who I was really important. Learning to love my own company was really important. So like even going to the movies by myself was like something that was weird because I was like, oh, I have no friends. But really it's a little bit therapeutic. You can go and just watch a movie and not have to worry about anything. I mean, nobody's talking anyway, or even just eating by yourself at a restaurant. It's just I needed my own time. I needed to learn to love my own company so that it's another way of, practicing self-love, right?
Mm,
Not saying you don't need people, but there's times where it's okay, you're just by yourself.
mhm,
And so that was a hard lesson because I would always turn down all the bad stuff about me and only accept the good stuff. And of course, that doesn't work out.
mhm,
You also attract the same people in your life who only want to see the good instead of seeing the good, bad, and the ugly. So
mhm.
that was a big wake up call for me.
So I guess I know with podcasting, it can develop us in so many different ways, right? And I know for the last 6.5 years with doing this podcast, it's been a huge part of my healing journey and helping build my confidence. So I would love to know for you, because you've had over 800 interviews.
Women. Yeah.
That's amazing. Congrats, by the way.
Thank
In terms of like storytelling and sharing experiences, how did that play a role in your healing and helping build your confidence?
I mean, each and every person was who took the time to share their story on my platform, I'm really grateful for, because then I was able to learn, like I mentioned before, that I wasn't the only one dealing with this. And so sometimes knowing that you're not alone makes things a lot better, right? Because sometimes I think maybe we're crazy because we're going through all these feelings when really it's normal.
Mhm,
Life is up and down, it's a roller coaster. And so even knowing like, oh, she also thought she was people pleasing, and oh, she also went through imposter syndrome. Like, that's good to know that she went through that and was still able to overcome it. And
mhm,
also just learning different confidence lessons along the way, whether it's having a gratitude journal, learning self-love, taking action. It helped me see things from a different perspective. Also knowing that self-confidence, there's no one way of doing it, right? I used to think in order to be confident, you had to be loud and boisterous and be out there, but really you don't have to. You can be an introvert and still be
mhm.
very confident. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so those are some of the things I've learned after interviewing so many women.
I love that. I love that. And as someone who is an introvert, I can definitely back that up to say, like, we don't have to be loud. We don't have to be, the loudest voice in the room, any of those things. My mentor's wife described me as a humble confidence.
Yeah.
What's been one of your biggest challenges that you've faced in overcoming those limiting beliefs and even societal expectations?
Wow, that's a great question. I think, as a woman, as women generally, we tend to overthink, right? We always tend to think everything has to be perfect before we make make moves or take action, when in reality we don't have to. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to be imperfect. And so learning to show up as my imperfect self was a big relief, because I don't have to show up a certain way. I don't need to put on a mask. And people crave more authenticity. People love to see the imperfections. Sometimes social media paints this photo like entrepreneurship is so easy, it's so much fun. You get to drive nice cars and live in big houses. And I'm not saying that's not possible. It is possible, but people don't realize what it takes to get there, right?
Mhm.
The sleepless nights. You can work, yes, you create your own hours, but it could be all hours of the night. People who, there's people out there say, I made 20,000 in 10 days. It's like, yes, that's possible, but you don't know what it took to get there, right?
Right.
Like, it might have taken 10 years to figure it out for that person to make 20K in 10 days.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things that people don't talk about, and just paints this picture like that it's so awesome. And not saying it's not, it is, but there's good and bad in everything. I mean,
Yeah,
I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I'm not, it is a lot of work. It's a lot more work than having a job, right? Because
absolutely.
I mean, you're trying to figure things out as you go, you know, there, putting yourself out there. It takes a lot of courage and confidence to put yourself, especially as women, we've been conditioned that self-promotion is tacky, when in fact it's empowering, and it builds more confidence and leadership in us when we go out there and promote our products or services. So,
Absolutely.
mhm.
I can relate to everything that you just said for sure. I've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years now. And I remember when I first became an entrepreneur and everyone was like, you're going through a divorce, you're a single mom, I think you should get a job, like a biweekly paycheck. And I was like, yeah, but I wouldn't be able to have the life that I have. I wouldn't be able to be present for a lot of the things with my kids, all the other things. But I looked at other entrepreneurs and grateful for those that were transparent about their journeys, that it wasn't so easy. And I think entrepreneurship is definitely not for everyone. I guess what fears or doubts did you have along the way, and how did you push through them?
Oh, I had so many. I feel like if I list them, the show will never end. But I think the most important is seeing my own worth, right? Like imposter syndrome always comes into play, thinking I'm a fraud, I'm not good enough. Especially when I got approached by Wiley to write my first book, The Tao of Self-Confidence, A Guide to Moving Beyond Trauma and Awakening the Leader Within. When they're like, would you like to write a book about, women leadership? And I'm like, me? Are you sure about that? Like, I have no clue what it means to be a leader. Like, I have no idea what's that even looks like. And so part of me almost turned it down because I didn't think I was good enough. And I was grateful that I had a support system that encouraged me to write it, especially being Asian. Having a book published by one of the top 5 publishers in the world is a big deal because at that time, not too many Asian women were we're given that opportunity. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's so many opportunities out there, but sometimes we're also afraid to take that. So with the help of, my support system, I said yes, even though I had no clue what I was going to write about. Like I literally had no idea. I had an outline. And once I got the green light, I started writing and just figured it out as I go. I said I was committed to it because I know this is not just about me. It's for every other woman out there who wants to be a writer, who wants to be seen as an author, who wants to be seen as a expert or a leader in their field. And one of the best things I get is when I do book signings and, there's little girls that come up to me and they're so excited to see me because I'm Asian woman, I'm an author, and they're like, I want to be an author too. And I'm like, you can totally do it because if I can do it, you can totally do it. And this is not
Mm-hmm.
about dismissing my abilities. It's showing like if like, I didn't come from like a fancy background. Like anyone can do this if they really believe in themselves and just go for it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing these little girls just sharing that they want to be a writer, sharing what their book series is about really lights me up because I mean, that's why I do this work to really create that representation and have the current and future generations see what's possible for themselves.
Mm-hmm. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. I know that like on the flip side, when we were talking a while ago about entrepreneurship and it not being easy, I know there are many times in a month where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I think I just get a job. It would probably be way easier.
Oh yeah. Oh, all
to
the
do
time.
the work.
All the time. All the time. There's days when I'm like, am I in the right path? Does this even make sense? Like, what am I doing to myself? Like, should I just go get a job? Like, I, all those things pop up, like there's days where I do want to quit and then I have to like, get back to the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? What's my purpose? What's my mission? And, being able to get back to that I'm like, okay, I will make this happen. I'll figure it out. I know I can do this. But yeah, there's days where I don't feel like doing it, or there's days where I feel exhausted thinking like, when is this going to happen? Right. We
Mhm,
all get there. There's nothing wrong with saying that because it's part of life. And so
mhm.
I've been where you've been too. And there's days where it sucks. Actually, there's more days that suck compared to the good days, right?
Yeah.
So
How do you handle like those moments when you're dealing with the self-doubt or the imposter syndrome? Because I want the listeners to understand, like, they may look at the levels of success that you've been able to attain or the levels of success that I've been able to attain and be like, okay, well, maybe they don't have to deal with certain things or maybe they don't know how to push through those things. So for them to hear how you push through the self-doubt and imposter syndrome might be helpful to that woman that's listening right now.
yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, when it comes to self doubt, I say 3 things to myself. I say, I am loved, I am enough, and I am worthy. And I keep saying that until I feel good. And yes, when you say in the first time, it's going to feel weird. It's going to you're going to sound awkward because this is something you've never done before.
Mhm,
So just be okay with that. Be okay with that uncomfortableness when you're saying it. But the more you keep doing it, the more you believe in yourself.
mhm.
And when it comes to imposter syndrome, I think we have to see imposter syndrome as something good because it's helping us level up, because we've done everything that we could. And now, we're going on to the next level. So, of course, yes, we're going to feel scared. We're going to feel like we're not good enough. But really, it's a sign that it can be a good thing, right? It's
Yes.
time for you to step up. It's time for you to level up because you've been able to accomplish so many amazing things.
Yes, I agree 1000%. Like all change is uncomfortable at first. I say this all the time on the podcast, but it's like change is uncomfortable at first, messy in the middle, and beautiful in the end. That imposter syndrome, it's a sign because your mind is like wrestling with your old idea of self or your present idea of self and that new thing that you're going after or that new vision of yourself that you have. And it's just that middle point. That's where that discomfort is. But I would love to know a little bit more about your podcast. Like, what inspired you to start it? What impact has it made on your personal journey?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I started the podcast in 2015 because I was dealing with my own confidence issues and I couldn't find resources that cater to Asian women specifically. So I decided, I'll do it. I'll be the one because I also wanted representation. And for me, if I crave for it, I should also create something, right? I don't want to be a hypocrite asking for stuff and then I'm not contributing something or I'm not part of the solution. And so I started the podcast. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know what a podcast was. I also had, I was part of a mastermind group so I could learn a little bit more about it. And I remember sharing the initial name of the podcast. So I actually had my initial name was supposed to be called The Stripper, and the tagline was to strip your limiting beliefs away. And so when I shared that, 9 out of 10 was like, I don't think you'll get the right audience. And so I was like, oh my goodness, if I can't like get this right, how am I going to get the show right? And so I had to go back, get clear. And that's how I got the Tao of Self-Confidence. And, podcasting is like a labor of love, like
Yeah.
it's a labor of love. I wouldn't change it for anything for the world, being able to connect with so many amazing women. And it also led me to things outside of my podcast, writing 2 books for Wiley, becoming a speaker, doing training and being able to speak for organizations and corporations such as NASA and Live Nation. I wouldn't trade it for the world because I wouldn't be here if I didn't start that thing. And it's not an overnight success. I've had this podcast for 10 years. The first 5 years, I didn't even know what I was going to do with it. I just knew I needed something. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just grateful for everything that has happened.
I love it. And I love that you shared that word, that it's led to other things, because I feel like, so I know I'm going to say probably around the time of the pandemic where, everyone wanted to start a podcast. It was almost like people are like, yeah, let me just try this thing, thinking that it's, I guess just the thing to do right now. But for those of us that have been in the game for a while, understanding that, yes, it does have its ups and downs. Like you said, it's a labor of love, but it also opens up so many doors because it develops you as a person and then the opportunities that can come from it. So it's just being open to the growth from having a podcast. I would love to talk about your books. And I know interesting enough. So I have a self-publishing consulting business, and I know there's a lot of people that say they want to write a book, and there's a smaller percentage that actually do write a book, and there's an even smaller percentage that get published by traditional publishers. And for everyone, the writing process is different. I would love if you can share what your writing process was like, and I guess the message that you hope to leave your readers with.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally get it. There's so many people out there who want to write a book. And like you said, only a small number of people do it, right? Some people think it's daunting. They have no story to share or it's too much work. I mean, I started out as a self-published co-authored book, and I used that like there was no tomorrow. I pimped it out like there was no tomorrow. And because I was able to, it led me to writing my first book with Wiley, right?
Mhm.
And it's been a great journey being able to write not 1, but 2 books for them. Like I was already happy that I did 1 book and I was like, I was going to pimp that book out like there's no tomorrow. And I guess because they saw that, they're like, would you like to write a second book? And so I was like, oh, sure. Let's do it. Right. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes you got to say yes, even if you have no clue what you're going to do. Because of that, I've been able to write 2 books for them in 2 years. And I
Yeah.
have no writing background. I actually, when I came to Canada from the Philippines, I had to take English classes at 7 because I couldn't make sentences together. And so that's why I say, if it's possible for me, it's definitely possible for you. And of course, there's good and bad with everything, right? The best thing about having a traditional publisher is like the distribution, right? Being able to see this book in different parts of the world. Like I've had people in Singapore tell me they've seen the book. I've seen the book in the Philippines and even showed my grandmother at the bookstore. My friend saw it in Australia, and then it's here in the US and Canada and parts of Europe. Also, with self-publishing, you get to do what you want, right? You can have your own store. You have, the profits go to you. So there's good and bad with everything,
Yes.
right? But for me, like there's no shame in having a self-published book. I think that's what people don't understand, right? Like I started with a self-published book and I didn't even write the whole book. I just have a chapter in it.
Mhm.
And I just started with that. There's no shame in it, right? Like I think if you have a self-published book, that's great. People have gotten so much success just having a self-published book. So
Mhm.
for me, both are great. And you start with what you know. People think, once you get a book deal with a major publisher, like, oh, you're set. No, you still got to do work. It's still a lot of work. You just don't know.
I think we should unpack that stigma, especially because I, okay, I've seen a lot of posts recently with people that have had negative experiences with both sides, right? Traditional publishing and self publishing. I've had my own experiences with both sides. But I've seen an influencer who I guess she had gone with maybe it was a hybrid publishing company. And she had the expectation that all of the promotion and stuff was going to be done for her. So she was down talking the self-publishing industry, not realizing all the people that I know that have been traditionally published, like you said, you pimped the hell out of that book, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
it still
I did
requires
my
you to
own,
promote
yeah,
your book.
I did the marketing. And, if it wasn't for being in a self-published book and helping me learn the different ways to market a book, I use that to apply it in the books that I have now.
Mhm.
And, writing a book is great, but people don't realize marketing is the most important part. And there's
Exactly.
a reason why
Have an
they also,
amazing book and they don't know that it exists.
yeah, and there's a reason why the hybrid publisher probably wanted to work with that influencer because she has a big platform, or if it's a man,
Mhm.
he, and wanted to utilize that influence, right?
Mhm.
They're not just going to pick every single person. So, you have to build your internet real estate. If not, you have to understand like the business of publishers, especially traditional publishers, is to sell books.
Mhm.
So if you don't know how to sell books, there's no reason for them to sign you, right?
Yeah.
Like and I'm just being honest. And sometimes I guess people don't want to hear that, but that's the real reality, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why Britney Spears got like a $9 million advance for her book because it was like number one on Amazon, like top books for before pre-order.
Mhm.
Like it got a lot of sales. And that's why she was given that big amount because they already knew she was a big seller. Regardless
Yes.
how chaotic and messy her life is, that book will sell.
Yes.
So when you have that kind of influence, you can command that type of money.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I guess over the years with your experience with, I guess, building your own confidence, with having the podcast, with the success with the books, how has your definition of confidence evolved over the years?
I think for me, just being confident is knowing that you're capable. Which is true. Every single person is capable. It just takes action, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes you just got to go out there and be okay to make mistakes. Like one of my mentors is always like, I hope I can say this or swear words are okay. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, fuck the how and just go out and do it. Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're like in learning overload to the point that we actually resist taking action. And I know because I've been there. But sometimes I'll just go ahead and do it and be like, okay, well, this worked. Okay, well, this one didn't work.
Yeah.
Like you'd be surprised what would work. And guys do that all the time. They don't know half the stuff that they're doing. They just go out there and do it. Like,
Yeah.
if you ask them a strategy, they'll give you 3 words. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
so imagine if we did the same thing as men where we just go out there and took action and just realized our capabilities, what we could achieve, right?
Yeah.
The impact we could create and
Yeah.
the barriers we could break and, just making the kind of history that we would want to see for women.
Yeah. I feel like we've been conditioned to overthink the process
Oh
and
yeah.
overplan and do all these things. And it's like so doubt removes action, action removes doubt. I have a lot of clients that are like, well, I don't know how, I can do this or get to this goal or do this thing. And my mentor used to always say to us, it's not about the how. You decide on the what. You have the vision of the goal that you want. The how will figure itself out. It's not our job to figure that out. It's once you've made the decision that, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm going after, these are my goals, then things will start to line up and work out how they should. But we are so busy overthinking the how that we do nothing. So that
Yeah.
action piece is very, very important. I guess what are some small but powerful steps someone can take today to start building their confidence?
I think I think for me, it's just, yes, taking small steps is important. So, like, if you wanted to write a book, as an example, just set a goal saying you want to write a page a day for 365 days straight.
Yeah.
So, by the end of the year, you're able to have one full book or two small books, right? And that's huge because you've been able to do it day in and day out. I always say results don't happen, big results happen from the small, actionable daily steps. I also say that Rome wasn't built in a day, so you can't
Hmm.
expect yourself the same thing.
Hmm.
Just start small. If you wanted to run a marathon and you've never ran a day in your life, then just start with like 5 minutes and then
Yeah.
slowly go up, right? Add another couple minutes until to the point you can run a full marathon, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, just taking those small steps is really important.
Absolutely. We were speaking before about, cultural differences and expectations. For the people who are listening, how do you recommend that they navigate cultural expectations while staying true to themselves?
I think for me, like there's some traditions in my culture that I do embrace, right? So one of the things I do is, I wear red. So whenever people see me, they always see me in red. And in Chinese culture, red is a happy color. It's a color of luck. It's color for something positive. So like on birthdays, we wear red. And so for me, red also symbolizes courage and confidence. So it's
Hmm.
like my color. And at the same time, it also represents my culture. So that's one thing that I do. I take the good stuff of my culture and utilize that in my content, in my everyday life.
Hmm. I love it.
So yeah, that's what I do.
What advice would you give to someone who maybe, we were talking before about the negative self-talk of feeling like, you're not good enough or you're not qualified or any of those things. What advice would you give to a woman who's listening right now who may feel like she's not enough or that she's struggling with her self-worth?
I think it's really important to have a support system. You don't have to do this alone. Working with someone is important because we all have blind spots, and they're blind spots for a reason because we can't see it. But if you hire someone or connect with someone who can see your blind spots, they can help you see how amazing you are, right?
Mhm.
There's like a exercise that I have in my first book, The Tao of Self-Confidence. It's called a self-mirroring exercise or something like that. And that exercise really actually helped me see my potential because someone else saw what I didn't see. So that's in the
Mhm.
book. And because people think we have to do everything by ourselves. We don't, right? Like it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to accept help. Guys do it all the time, right? Like we have to learn to not be the superwoman of everything because that's just exhausting.
Mhm.
And knowing that you don't have to do this alone makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in like our daily habits, how they impact our life. And if something is important to me, then how in my daily life am I implementing that? So, what are some, I guess, daily habits or even mindset shifts that have personally helped you to stay confident?
For me, I do like watching like YouTube interviews of people who've been through like hell and back. That helps me just realize what's important and that it's all part of the journey. Surrounding myself with the right people is important. Reading books, listening to podcasts that will help feed my mindset is important. People don't realize personal development is so important. So
Mhm.
even if you do 10 minutes of personal development a day, that can be huge because especially in entrepreneurship, it's 80% on, mindset and then 20% like action, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I should tell my mom. My book is in the business section, but she she begs to differ. But yeah, like those are daily habits that can help us, become better. Just having these small things done every single day.
Love it. Okay, before we go to the final segment, if you could leave our listeners with one powerful message about self confidence, what would it be?
Wow, that's a great question. For me, I think for anyone listening, I just want you to realize that you have what it takes to be what you need to be, what you're meant to be, right?
Mm,
Like you got it, right? You just need a little bit of courage to go out there and take action. And the moment you take action, you'd be surprised what you can come up with.
absolutely. Great advice. Before we go to the rapid fire, can you tell the listeners where they can learn more from you and about you, where they can stay connected with you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can check out my website, SheenaYapChan.com. I have a free self-confidence personality quiz that you can take. For the podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and other podcasting platforms. My upcoming book called Bridging the Confidence Gap, How Empowered Women Change the World is available for pre-order. So it's on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Indigo, and other book retailers. My current book, The Tao of Self-Confidence, is also available on those same book platforms, retailers. And if you forgot anything that I mentioned, literally just Google my name, Sheena Yap Chan, because I'm the only Sheena Yap Chan on the internet.
I will have all the links to connect with you in the detailed section of the episode so they don't have to search too far.
Awesome.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So the final segment of the show, it's like a rapid fire. You can answer one word or one sentence, but if you feel the need to unpack, you're more than welcome to do so.
Cool.
All right. First question. When and where are you the happiest?
At the beach.
Love it. What's been the biggest surprise that you've had in the past year?
I guess writing my second book.
What keeps you up at night?
I think everything that's every opportunity that I could think of that would come my way. I don't know. Yeah, that's
What's the best advice you've ever received?
when one door closes, another one opens.
Mm. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
I don't know if I've had, I was told that as a woman, I did more than enough. I remember working a job and then I was going to apply for another company, another position because I wanted something new. And I remember a coworker told me, why would you do that? You already make more than enough as a woman. And so I actually listened to that person and stayed at my job for a lot longer than I was supposed to.
Wow. 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 Okay. What is something that little Sheena wished you got back into?
I guess my high school years, it was a fun time.
Okay. What would little Sheena be proud of you for?
I think that I was able to just go out there and live life on my terms, even at times if it's scary.
Okay. And last but not least, what do you wish women would do more of?
For me, just take action, especially March is Women History Month, and the theme for this year is accelerated action. So results happen when you take action, and be okay to make mistakes. Just learn to pivot as you go, course correct as you go.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Great advice. Thank you so much, Sheena. Honestly, I appreciate you not only taking the time to be here with us today, but sharing your story and your expertise. And I cannot wait to stay connected and follow your journey and see where life takes you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
To all my healers out there, thank you for tuning in. Because of you, we rank in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally, and there are over 3 million podcasts out there. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, rate the show, and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. I want to challenge you to think of one person that would benefit from today's conversation. Share this episode with them. Someone out there needs Sheena's testimony. You can screenshot this week's episode and tag us on Instagram. You can tag Sheena at sheena.yap.chan. You can tag myself at @TheRealMcKinney-Smith, and let's keep this conversation going. If you loved today's episode, take your mindset work a step further with my gratitude journal. Science proves gratitude brings more joy and success. So start your practice today. You can grab your copy on Amazon or at mckinney-smith.com. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope. So let's continue to heal her.